Hello and welcome to another Doctor's Assistant 1 video, and today I'm doing a video on why I like Rick and Morty. Yeah, I very much like it a lot. Like for those of you who don't know, like to put it in perspective, over this holiday, this like God knows how long holiday, and that like 11 bajillion a week holiday. The first sort of thing that I actually watched in out of Doctor Who and Rick and Morty was actually Rick and Morty. Well, I watched it sooner than Doctor Who, which is just a testament to how much I've actually started to like Rick and Morty, as it is very close. It is a year close to being taking over Doctor Who as my favourite show. I know, heresy, I know, I can't believe it myself, but I mean, where Doctor Who feels very stale and feels very stale and formulaic recently, Rick and Morty is very the opposite. It feels very fresh. It's very much a breath of fresh air in a media area that is very oversaturated with the same old tripe and sludge and garbage, really. Where Futurama, or where there's a void where Futurama was, I think Rick and Morty very much replaces that. And I think aside from Back to the Future, that's literally the only other thing I can think of to compare it to Futurama. And even then, it's not even so much like Futurama in the sense that it's like a homage to everything sci-fi. It's sort of its own sci-fi universe, but within that it's so, like, it's just such a well-crafted universe that it's like brilliant. I mean, for example, in the apparently, I think, season 1 finale, as I've not even watched season 1 yet because I'm in the UK and basically Rick and Morty isn't on DVD in our region, which is so dumb. But even so, I think in the season 1 ending, basically what happens is, like, there's this thing that happens where everyone turns into these horrible mutant-like things, right? And so basically, Rick and Morty end up going through the portal that Rick can, like, make with his portal gun, right? To go to a parallel Earth, but it's okay, Morty. The version of us and me and you, Morty, die here. And then it's like Rick, like, says, "Okay, pass me this that screwdriver over there, Morty." And then, like, he's screwing this, like, thing together, and then he, like, completed it, and then a giant explosion happens and he's dead and stuff. And then they walk into that, like, room and there's massive blood everywhere and stuff. And basically Morty has to, like, bury himself and that, or that version of himself and stuff. And very much, that's a big theme of Rick and Morty. It's very much about moral and ethical decisions and stuff, but it's odd in the sense that although that is usually thrown out there in the episode, it's not at the forefront of the episode, and it's not, like, always like, you must know this thing is a message. It's very much at the back and is very much like a subtext that you can read into if you want to. And and it makes you really think. They don't scream it at you, which is nice as well. I feel like Rick and Morty can be very fast paced at some points, and then very, like, stripped back and very much slower pace, or not even so much slower pace, but more emotional and more heavy hitting. And there's a lot of content there, really. It's zany, it's wacky, it's crazy, but it's also heartfelt and warm and nice in other areas, I say that, but then again, I think it's because I'm a nut job for sci-fi and everything sci-fi, and I think, as I said before, Futurama, there wasn't as much a sci-fi big cult following or big fandom of sci-fi nerds, whereas I think with the decline and the demise of Futurama, unfortunately, but between that and the birth of Rick and Morty, I think there has been a big acceptance of people liking sci-fi stuff and nerdy things along that line. And so I think where Futurama may have declined because of the fact that it was very niche, Rick and Morty will not be that niche, really. And I mean, there's 10 episodes per season, and there's only 2 seasons, which is insane. But I can imagine the writers are very much of the ilk of, you know, equality over quantity. You know, they have talented voice actors, superb writers, you know, superb animators, and just brilliant behind the scenes people, really. I adore Rick's character. I very much empathise with his character. He is basically, if I was to compare him to someone, he is essentially Doc Brown, but with like all of the eccentricities and arrogance and emotional distance of, say, some of the Doctors. So the 4th, the 6th and the 9th Doctor come to mind, you know. And that, you know, like he even has like a 9th Doctor like well, not catchphrase, but you know, that same sort of, oh, you're just human, Morty, you're just human, Morty. You know, let's play some Blitz and Chips. Rick, did you just sell a gun to play video games? Yeah, Morty, if you say anything like that, that's gonna sound bad. And that, you know. But yeah, I adore his character. He looks like Doc Brown, but again, he's very much his own character. He aesthetically looks like a character that already exists, but again, is very much you know, his own like character and that. And much like Doctor Who, I think the brilliance with Rick and Morty is that it just began out of thin air. You know, there's no actual, you know, it's not like it started from the beginning of Rick and then of, like, you know, his story, and then went on. You know, we know nothing really about the backstory of Rick, and I hope they keep that up for as long as possible, because again, I think that's what made probably the Doctor as a character when he first came on screen for the first time in the 60s, very interesting. You know, the fact that you know nothing about him, but are just told you should trust this guy, you know. And I think you're supposed to see the stories more than likely from Morty's eyes, but again, there are so many different perspectives, and everyone will probably relate to different characters. And then there's Beth and Jerry, who are Morty and Summer's mum and dad, and they are just fantastically sort of normal, average kind of couple, in the sense that they absolutely hate each other, and yet they are thrusted into these sometimes wild adventures, or they do their own sort of thing in a story that develops their relationship or their toxic relationship. I say relationship, but yeah, it's a failed one, and that. I don't know, I just love it. It's such a commentary on social, you know, norms and society and pop culture sometimes, not always. And the oddity is, you might be thinking, oh, they've done a time travel episode. They haven't really. The closest they've done is, I think, the season 2 opener. I think it is, where there's like a bajillion different versions of Rick and Morty and stuff, and the screen goes all like different layered and chopped up and horizontal and vertical, and that, like, there's these lines across and whatnot. You'll know what I mean if you've seen the episode, but yeah, I think that's as close as they've got to a sort of time travel-y, paradoxical-y one in that sense. But I think the creators have gone on record to say that they don't really want to do time travel, which is a bit odd considering it's very much inspired by Back to the Future. And the creators have gone on record to say that they were very much inspired by Back to the Future to make Rick and Morty. But even so, it's its own thing, you know. I think Morty and Rick are just essentially, you know, the creator's own take on Marty McFly and Doc Brown, but everything else and the world and the context of the situations and the way the characters talk and interact in their world, you know, is so much different from the world that they liked, and the things they liked from Back to the Future are there, but are just altered and changed, and the context of what they do and how they do it and how they deal with it is different to Back to the Future. So it's not just a Back to the Future clone by any means, or like that. You know, the characters are so rich and refined, and the adventures are just so outright lunatic, like mental, you know, out there zany stuff. everything and anything's on the table here, you know, and you know, I like that, and it also not only enables creativity and no real restrictions and that, but it also enables me as a viewer to think anything and everything could happen, you know, in the sense that, you know, even though Rick and Morty are the main characters, I never feel 110%, you know, comfortable knowing, you know, knowing that they're gonna live, you know, like, all could happen. Rick could die, but somehow, I don't know, a past version of Rick could come out of a wormhole, and he could be that Rick now. He could be our normal Rick, essentially, and now he could be the main character. I also, fun fact, I also have 2 other comic books, 2 single-issue comic books of Rick and Morty and a graphic novel. I've read both the single issues and I adore those, and I haven't read the graphic novel yet, which is the one that I got on Free Comic Book Day. I still haven't read that, but yeah, I adore Rick and Morty, as you can tell. Morty, www.rickandmorty.com, just me and you, Morty. Someone did comment below on like one of the trailery things for Rick and Morty, something interesting, which was that essentially Rick is like the new Deadpool, and I think again, a new Deadpool, and I would agree with that. It's like all of the like foul-mouthed, like eccentric, R-rated, sort of 18-rated sort of stuff of Deadpool mixed with, as I say, the arrogance and the emotional distance and stubbornness and more alien aspect of the Doctor. Had sexual intercourse and boom, there you go, that's Rick, essentially, you know. I'm telling you, Rick! But yeah, get swifty. But yeah, lick my balls. But what? But yeah, it's just fantastic. I adore the characters. I just like the animation style. It's so zany, wacky, and as I say, it's so creative. Anything could happen, and you know, and I don't know, like, I can't. It's so zany in the sense that I can't even think of what they would do next. Like, there's no predictableness there, you know. It's so zany, anything and everything could happen. You know, like, you cannot even think of a way that they would get out of the season 2 finale, which is a belter of an episode. It's like, oh shit, like, how are they going to get out of this one? And, yeah, and basically anything and everything could happen, you know, and stuff. And I like how season 2 does delve in more into Rick as a character, but not too much, because again, I like that mysteriousness about him, but it's very much about his emotions and why he might come across like an emotional douche, or more of an emotional cripple is probably the best way, you know. He's emotionally distant, like the 4th Doctor in my mind, you know. But yeah, he's very much like that, you know, and I think if you watch the season 2 finale, I think you'll understand why he's like that, because clearly he's been burnt before, and he feels like he'll continue to get burnt, you know, and lose people, and so, you know, and clearly, as much as everyone thinks he's a emotional cripple, an emotional douchebag, he does this awesome thing in the season 2 finale, which I might not, I don't want to spoil, but, you know, he finally becomes more empathetic to those around him, is all I'll say. And I have no idea, as I say, how they're going to get out of the season 2 finale, because anything and everything could happen, you know, from something that I don't expect to something more, yeah, that makes sense. And that's a way of getting out of that situation. But yeah, thanks for watching. Comment, rate and subscribe, and please do comment below more maybe topics, video ideas you think that I should do. I'm thinking about doing a Why I Like Robot Wars maybe, or what I thought of the new Robot Wars. I just want to delve into some more different video type stuff, or topic videos other than just Doctor Who. But yeah, thanks for watching and goodbye.